Hey, welcome to World Entertainment, and we got some breaking news. Good news, Starfleet Academy has been cancelled. Now, there is still bad news. The bad news is Season 2 is still coming. That is still being released, but Paramount have officially pulled the plug on this garbage fest of a series, which tells us that Kurtzman is done. Because, keep in mind that they've cancelled this after he has gone in and had his meeting to pitch the future of Star Trek on TV, to pitch year 1 and to pitch season 3, 4 and possibly 5 of Starfleet Academy. And David Ellison, by the looks of things, simply went, yeah, no, we're good, thanks, bye.
Go to hell.
So let's dive into this. Now, this is coming from Variety, and all the other sources are now jumping in. But the first place this news actually broke was Gary from Nerdrotic at MegaCon on a panel where he pulled out his phone and said, I just received this message from my source and said Season 2 will be its last. So Gary's been hearing this for quite a while, but of course the mainstream media won't tell you that. But let's dive into this. So the rumors were true, and now it's official. Star Trek Starfleet Academy has been cancelled by Paramount. Variety confirmed that the Paramount Plus series will end with its upcoming second season, bringing a quiet but telling end to one of the franchise's most divisive projects. For many fans, this isn't a shock, it's validation. CBS Studios and Paramount Plus attempted to frame the cancellation as a celebration, issuing a lengthy statement praising the show's ambitions. And wait till you hear what they wrote. Now, this clearly isn't from the likes of David Ellison and stuff. This is clearly from, the corporate PR people, basically. So they wrote this to Variety. Keep this in mind. This is their statement to Variety. It's not an overall statement that they just put out. It's specifically what they said to Variety, where they wrote, "We're incredibly proud of the ambitious passion and creativity that went into bringing Star Trek Starfleet Academy to life. The series introduced audiences to a bold new group of characters, welcomed familiar faces, and expanded the Star Trek universe in an exciting new ways. We're grateful to Alex Kurtzman, Noga Landau, and Gaia Viola, and the entire cast and crew who pushed storytelling boundaries in the spirit of Gene Roddenberry's vision. We look forward to sharing the upcoming second and final season with everyone, and continuing to celebrate the cast and crew and all that was accomplished with this series." The first thing you read into that before we go on with this article is the fact that if they were so proud and so happy with the ambition that they pushed, the storytelling, the creativity, the cast, all of this stuff, how it pushed the boundaries and it was all in the vein of Gene Roddenberry, which it absolutely was not, why would you cancel it then? You wouldn't. You'd be going, this was so great for us, it did so well, absolutely we're keeping it. No, you pull the plug because it's all BS, which it says here. That's the corporate version. The reality is much simpler. The audience hated it and the show didn't perform. Despite strong critical backing, something Variety itself highlights, touting an 87% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, audiences clearly weren't on board. And this is one thing I've been bringing up, is every time there's an article about Starfleet Academy, every single one of them, they have to put in the critic score. And they always put in the critic score, not the fan score. But they don't tell you that it's only the critic score. They always just say, oh, the show that's at 87% Rotten Tomatoes score. So the series currently sits at a 51% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a heinous 2% score on critic lists. That's a stark contrast to the Hollywood Access critic approval Variety is parroting. And more importantly, it failed where it actually matters. Starfleet Academy has yet to chart on the Nielsen Top 10 streaming originals list throughout its entire first season run. Not once. Nielsen ratings are currently out through February 22nd, and Starfleet Academy has never been on the list. While there are still a few weeks left to calculate, it's stunning that the show has yet to appear. For a flagship franchise like Star Trek, that's catastrophic. Here's where things really start to fall apart. This wasn't some carefully planned 2-season arc, quite the opposite. As recently as last week, those involved with the show, including Alex Kurtzman, were openly discussing the future with expectations for Season 3 and even Season 4. Even more telling, Season 2 reportedly ends on a cliffhanger, according to the creative team, something clearly designed to set up further storylines, which is also something we've talked about. This is one of these things Alex Kurtzman is known for. He ends everything on a cliffhanger to force, or at least try and force the studios into giving him more seasons, because it's a case of, well, we can't leave it on a cliffhanger. So instead, this show is now being wrapped up abruptly. In other words, Starfleet Academy has been cancelled. And here's the part the mainstream media won't highlight. This wasn't a surprise to everyone. During the Geeks and Gamers Importance of Pop Culture panel at MegaCon, Nerd Roddick told a packed audience at the Orange County Convention Center that he had heard from a reliable source that the show would end with Season 2, which you can actually find that panel online. So at the time, it was just a rumor. Now it's confirmed. Let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about one terribly reviewed show. Starfleet Academy was supposed to be part of the next phase of Star Trek, a fresh entry point aimed at building the franchise's future. Instead, it's now ending after 2 seasons with no clear replacement waiting in the wings. And that matters, because as of now, there are no newly announced Kurtzman Trek series in development. The pipeline isn't expanding, it's shrinking, and it could be a sign that Alex Kurtzman is on his way out. The second season has already wrapped production and is currently in post-production, so the show will get an ending. The question is whether anyone will still be watching when it arrives. When a show fails to connect with audiences, when it can't even register on streaming charts, eventually the numbers catch up, and that's exactly what happened here. Star Trek Starfleet Academy is cancelled, and after one more season, it will be over. And for many fans who've been frustrated with the direction of modern Star Trek, this doesn't feel like a loss. It feels like validation and perhaps a shred of hope that this franchise might be able to get back on track. And that is the thing. Everybody has been looking at this and saying how terrible it is. The last video I did regarding Starfleet Academy Season 2 about Tatiana Maslany not being coming back and stuff like that was the fact that they were trying to do all of these different things, and it's like you built all these characters up to be so important and now you're ignoring them. You're ending the second season on a cliffhanger, but you've no guarantee that there's a third season. You can't chart all of this stuff. What fans are going to look at it? And the fact that the franchise might get back onto the right track definitely comes down to the fact that David Ellison has clearly looked at all this now and has said, we're done with Kurtzman. This is it. Just look at the state of what Starfleet Academy has done. People, what this article is failing to put in there as well is the fact that less people will now tune in for Season 2, especially knowing that it ends on a cliffhanger. For the people who know that, knowing that there will not be a follow-up to, fill in whatever happens by the end of this series, then what's the point in watching it? It's going to lose more audience than it had in the first season, which was next to nobody. So it being cancelled, it's no great surprise to anybody. We all knew from day one. And this is the thing, is that the media has been trying to, build this show up. But their problem is the fact that it was so terrible that they couldn't even ignore that's terrible. And as I've said in a previous video, what they started to do now is to try and tear down the other Star Trek shows from Kurtzman. So the likes of Discovery's, look, you notice they keep saying now, oh, Starfleet Academy can fix the problems that Strange New Worlds introduced and what Discovery failed to mention and stuff like this. So it's like, oh, we're going to try and use this to boost it up, as opposed to, this is fantastic, you should be watching it, because nobody's watching it. Nobody did watch it. The only people who did was us reviewing it. And thank Christ, Paramount had the common sense to actually look at it and go, yeah, we're good, we're not moving on, you're done. And remember, they're still trying to say, well, year one was pitched. Year one was pitched before Kurtzman went in and sat down to discuss more Starfleet Academy and the future of Star Trek on TV, which would have included year one. So if they've pulled the plug on this and they've announced nothing new, you can guarantee year one's not happening, and this is officially the end of Kurtzman Trek. So let me know what you guys think of this. I'm sure you are just like me, you are all absolutely delighted. Again, the bad news side of it is the fact that season 2 still is coming, but that's all that's coming for Starfleet Academy. So once again, let me know your thoughts on this, and where do you think Star Trek should and could go next? Let me know what you think. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like and share and subscribe and all that good stuff, and hit that hype button. Cheers! I'll catch you in the next one.